It happened in another room, and I could hear her crying. It was so awful.
She had so many wires and lines going into her.
My stomach just sank at that point. We really thought we were going to lose her.
There was always that question of why is all this happening? What's wrong with my mom?
I was totally desperate for some kind of answer.
They pulled us aside and they said, we've pretty much done all that we can.
Next, two medical mysteries that defied the experts. Since the day she was born, Avery Williams has not stopped screaming, and no doctor seems too concerned. But when her little body begins shutting down entirely, her parents suddenly find themselves in a race against time.
We were devastated.
I just kept thinking, what can I do with her before she dies?
Then, Lynn Sanders could have never imagined that the bizarre, inexplicable joint pain she's endured since she was 15 years old would ever jeopardize her life or her baby's.
All of a sudden, I felt no movement. I was thinking, I'm going to have a stillborn, or there's something wrong with my daughter.
When illness strikes, we look to doctors to give us answers. But what if they can't? For these unlucky patients, diagnosis is a mystery. Almost as soon as Idaho Falls natives James and Amber Williams tied the knot in 1996, they couldn't wait to start a family.
Ideally for us, 2 boys, 2 girls just sounded perfect.
James's wish started to come true in 1999 when their son Christian was born. 10 months later, their daughter Taylor joined the family. And that next winter, Amber was pregnant yet again.
At first, I was kind of nervous because I wasn't quite ready. I had 2 little babies at home, but I knew I could handle it.
On August 9th, 2002, the young parents welcomed their second daughter, Avery, into the world. She weighs a healthy 7 pounds, 2 ounces, and immediately captures her father's heart.
There's something about daughters even a little bit more than sons as a dad where you just don't want to really say you love them just a titch more, but I guess you kind of do.
But from the moment she's born, it's clear that Avery is unlike their other children, who are extremely passive newborns.
The first night, Avery cried all night long, which was so different than my other kids.
And we kind of dismissed it that she was just maybe a fussier baby than our first 2 had been.
The next day, while Amber's trying to calm her daughter down, she realizes that Avery's eyes look very strange.
And I noticed that the whites of her eyes seemed to be robin egg blue. I thought, boy, am I imagining this?
Alarmed, Amber calls the doctor to find out what's going on. But after giving the infant a thorough head-to-toe exam, he assures the family that there's nothing wrong with Avery.
He thought it looked a little bit off, but there was no specific alarm that went off in his mind.
The next morning, Amber and James take little Avery home to meet her brother and sister. It's a joyful day for everyone. But almost as soon as they walk in the door, Avery begins to wail, and it doesn't stop.
When Amber called me to tell me about Avery crying a lot, I was just like, not really concerned.
My mom reminded me how colicky I was as a baby and that she would carry me around for, I don't know, the first weeks to months of life just to be able to get basic things like dishes, laundry, anything done.
But with each passing week, Avery's blood-curdling screams only seem to get worse. And every day, by the time evening rolls around, Amber is exhausted and at her wit's end. Then one afternoon, after putting Avery down for a nap, Amber notices that her daughter's features seem to be changing.
The shape of her head was a little bit off. It was a little bit bigger on top, and her forehead started getting bigger.
We didn't really discuss or talk about a lot, but it was something that we did both notice.
I just kind of blew it off as not wanting to be critical of my baby.
Amber never thought she would be the kind of mother who cared about her child's appearance. But when the veins in little Avery's head start to protrude, she can't help but acknowledge how freakish she looks.
People were starting to say, wow, she has big veins in the side of her head. So, we were like, ooh, that's weird.
It almost looked like as if someone had taken a blue crayon or marker or something and drew them right on there with purple or blue.
During Avery's next regular checkup, Amber points out the peculiar veins, but the doctor promises her that it's nothing to be concerned about. Avery is perfectly healthy.
I didn't want to be a hypochondriac, and I didn't have a medical degree.
But when Amber notices that her 4-month-old is still fitting nicely in her newborn onesies, she begins to worry that Avery may not be meeting her milestones. Concerned, she takes her daughter back in to see the family pediatrician.
He got out the weight charts, and he said, she's still on the charts, but let's keep an eye on it. In the back of my mind, the whole time, I knew that something was off with Avery.
Then, on December 8, 2002, Amber's worst nightmare comes true.
I just woke up more from a bad feeling than something that woke me up.
But nothing could have prepared her for what she sees next.
Avery had labored breathing. She was just wheezing.
She couldn't even cry very easily like she usually did because she just couldn't get enough air.
My stomach just sank at that point. We really thought we were going to lose her.
Since the day she was born, Avery Williams has caused a stir. She cries incessantly for no apparent reason. She isn't gaining weight like she should. Even more alarming, she has bizarre protruding veins popping out of her forehead. Still, no doctor seems concerned. But now, to her parents' horror, she can't seem to catch her breath.
I raced her into the doctor as fast as I could, and I set her on the table. I undressed her.
As Amber downloads the pediatrician on Avery's breathing problems, he tests the infant's oxygen levels. The results are shocking. She's barely able to maintain a 90. Healthy children can easily score a 98. The blood drains from Amber's face when the doctor tells her that she needs to take Avery to the hospital immediately.
My mind just snapped. I couldn't imagine that I had been neglecting her enough in my mind that she got so sick she needed to go to the hospital.
The doctor is extremely worried that little Avery is suffering from a respiratory infection that could turn deadly.
I remember distinctly answering that phone, and they were so concerned.
At that point, I was terrified.
The doctor on call orders a series of blood tests and an X-ray of Avery's tiny chest, hoping to find some clue as to what's causing her so much distress. 6 hours later, when the findings come in, the doctor knows he's found the evidence he's been looking for. Avery's white blood cell count is alarmingly high, a clear indicator of several potentially life-threatening diseases.
They thought that might be a sign of meningitis.
We were horrified.
Meningitis is an inflammation of the meninges, the membranes that cover the brain and spinal cord. It is usually caused by bacteria or a virus, and left untreated, it can be fatal.
The next thing he wanted to do immediately was to perform a spinal tap.
This was something Amber and I had never experienced ourselves before, and here they were doing this to our 4-month-old daughter.
It happened in another room, and I could hear her crying. It was so awful. I just plugged my ears.
After carefully drawing cerebral fluid from Avery's spine, the doctor sends it off to the lab to be tested.
At this point, Amber and I both really just wanted to have an answer.
Now, the young parents can only wait for the results.
It was just a terrible, terrible night for us.
This was something that doesn't happen to one of our kids.
Being a grandparent sometimes is more difficult than one would think, because not only do you watch your adult children suffering, but then you're watching your grandchild too. So it's kind of a double whammy.
And just when they think things can't get any worse, the doctor drops a bombshell.
The next morning, our pediatrician said that she did not have meningitis. He said the next thing we need to check for It could be the C word or the L word, which was cancer or leukemia.
We were devastated. Things seemed to be going from worse to worse to worse.
While the news sends the family reeling, the medical team is focused on figuring out the next step in their investigation before Avery's condition gets any worse.
At this point, our physicians in Idaho began to consult with doctors in Salt Lake City. They wanted to talk to some specialists from pediatric oncology.
The clock is ticking as the Salt Lake City doctor begins to review Avery's case. And when a radiologist identifies a mysterious pattern on her chest X-ray, he immediately informs Avery's doctors in Idaho that he's found a critical clue.
And they wanted to get her down there to Salt Lake City to see the specialist.
Within the hour, the team has Avery in an ambulance. Amber is by her side as they begin the 250-mile journey to Salt Lake City. Following the flashing red lights in his own car, the harsh reality begins to sink in for James.
I already knew that things were bad, but this just seemed to be continuing once again to just be another level of escalation, and it just seemed to be getting scarier and scarier.
For the past 48 hours, more than half a dozen doctors have tried to identify exactly what's causing Avery Williams' little body to go haywire, all to no avail. Now, one doctor in Salt Lake City has a hunch. The problem is, he's 250 miles away.
On that ride down, it was all I could do to just try to hold things together emotionally and just get myself ready for what I might be facing when I walked in through the doors.
In the meantime, Dr. Michael Pulsifer is anxiously awaiting his tiny patient. He's been carefully reassessing Avery's chest X-ray the Idaho doctors sent over.
Avery, she just didn't seem to be right in many ways.
As soon as Avery comes through the doors, Dr. Pulsifer starts his own investigation by ordering a new round of X-rays.
We repeated X-rays of all of Avery's bones. The X-ray of a normal person has a fairly thick demarcation of solid bone. And inside of that is bone marrow. What you should see is a very white outer layer with this clear marrow space. In Avery's case, it looked like a bone inside of a bone. It was very troubling.
While a few of the Idaho doctors initially suspected that the bone marrow anomaly could indicate the presence of leukemia cells, Dr. Pulsifer doesn't think the X-rays fit the typical leukemia pattern.
This was a very unusual situation, and we had to figure it out.
She was really sick. She was pale. She just wasn't breathing very good.
We didn't know how much longer we were going to have with Avery. We just wanted an answer as to what she had.
The next morning, Dr. Pulsifer announces his new game plan. He's going to run a series of highly specialized blood tests in the hope that the findings will give him the crucial clue he's been looking for.
The blood work again showed a very high white count. The white cells are what our body uses to fight infection, and generally it's relatively low. Clearly, there was a disease going on of the bone marrow. That was very clear.
Marrow is a substance found inside bones. It resembles blood and contains stem cells, which carry oxygen, fight infection, and control bleeding. As a next step, Dr. Pulsifer needs to remove a small sample of Avery's bone marrow to help him pinpoint exactly what's wrong.
I was just sure she was gonna die. That's what I just kept thinking was, what can I do with her before she dies?
The next 24 hours are excruciating. All the family can do is wait and hope that they have the courage to deal with Dr. Pulsifer's diagnosis. When the results finally come in, he knows that he's found the clue he's been looking for.
I've seen pictures of it before, but I'd never actually seen a patient with the disease. It's exceptionally rare. In the bone marrow biopsy, as we reviewed that with our pathologist, they confirmed it, and we felt quite confident from that point about our diagnosis of osteopetrosis.
Malignant infantile osteopetrosis is a rare, life-threatening congenital disorder characterized by abnormally dense bones. In healthy individuals, bones go through a continuous cycle of remodeling, in which old bone is removed and replaced by newly formed bone. But in Avery's case, the cells that break down old bone, osteoclasts, are defective, so the bone just keeps building up. Eventually, this begins to cramp the bone marrow and nerves that pass through her skull.
The diagnosis, it was crushing to me. I didn't want to accept that this was something that my daughter had.
Dr. Pulsifer is confident that Avery's incessant crying had nothing to do with colic. Terrible as it is for Amber and James to stomach, it's likely their daughter has been in a lot of pain since the day she was born.
I was just so shocked. I just couldn't even think straight.
This particular disorder involves nerves running through bone, and the bone, when it remodels, accommodates nerves that run through it. But if it doesn't remodel appropriately, then those nerves are squeezed and pulled and twisted and cause pain.
In fact, every symptom, including Avery's enlarged head and bizarre veins, can be linked to the diagnosis.
The abnormal shape of Avery's bones is associated with the disease. If the bone is only growing out and is never remodeled appropriately, then areas are going to bulge out in a very abnormal fashion. And when that occurs, these veins are going to become much larger than they would be otherwise.
Even the strange blue tint in the whites of her eyes is a common occurrence in patients with osteopetrosis.
And we really do not know why they get this particular color to their eyes.
On average, only 100 children are born with malignant infantile osteopetrosis each year in the United States. It can be devastating if not caught early. Given that their disease-fighting bone marrow is impaired, children with osteopetrosis often die from a fatal infection.
When parents hear the implications of this diagnosis, that their child will, without appropriate treatment, be blind and be deaf and almost assuredly die somewhere in the first years of life, it's just horrible to hear a diagnosis like that.
I was having a hard time wanting to bond to her at that point. I was afraid she was going to die. I wanted to love her as much as I could, but I also wanted to distance myself emotionally.
Avery's only hope is to undergo a bone marrow transplant. Immediately, the hunt is on to find an acceptable donor. They start by testing Avery's brother and sister, but Dr. Pulsifer reminds them that statistically, they only have a 30% chance of finding a match with one of her siblings.
We called all of our family and extended family and asked for their prayers because we needed that 100% bone marrow match.
Almost 72 hours later, Dr. Pulsifer makes a call that the family will never forget.
First words out of his mouth are, "James, we have a match. It's Christian." We were just ecstatic.
The next month is a whirlwind. Avery undergoes the bone marrow transplant, but it doesn't take. Undeterred, Dr. Pulsifer repeats the procedure, and the family begins a prayerful watch, hoping that a second pass will do the trick.
We thought if this doesn't work, I don't think anything will work, and we might just have to take her home and keep her comfortable until she died.
Then, on March 4th, 2003, the family gets the news they've anxiously been waiting for. Dr. Pulsifer pronounces the transplant a success.
We thought, oh, there's so much hope now. She's going to live.
But no one could have prepared them for what would happen next.
Finally, with her white cells back, she had the ability to heal. But when they came back, they did healing to an nth degree and released what we call inflammatory mediators, or proteins that are normally used for healing, but when released in high amounts, cause all sorts of symptoms. Her lungs became extremely swollen. She went into renal failure and became about as sick as could be.
She had so many wires and lines going into her that you couldn't even get near her.
I remember just gently stroking Avery's head and whispering to her, "Avery, it's okay. If you need to go, you can go."
5-month-old Avery Williams is hanging on for dear life. What doctors first thought was meningitis is in fact an extremely rare and potentially deadly bone disease. After undergoing a successful bone marrow transplant, her fragile body has suddenly started to crash, and her organs are failing one by one.
They pulled us aside and they said, "We've pretty much done all that we can."
She was extremely sick. We did not expect her to make it.
Shaken to the core by the tragic turn of events, the Williams family can't bring themselves to leave her side. Hours turn into days, and days into weeks.
We really began to question what the end point for Avery was going to be.
Then, 100 days after she was first admitted to the hospital, Avery does something no one ever expected.
She opened her eyes and she started just making these sounds, which she hadn't done for months.
Oh, it was a hallelujah. We just knew at that moment that that was a good sign.
She very slowly showed us that she wanted to get better by fighting each day.
When Avery came to and her eyes were open, we could see something wasn't right with them. So the first thing they wanted to do was test her vision.
Well, we ultimately found that she lost most of her vision.
Dr. Pulsifer suspects that in between the bone marrow transplants, Avery's optic nerve was damaged as her skull grew thicker and thicker from the osteopetrosis.
Nerves in our central nervous system don't repair themselves. So if your nerve to your eye or your nerve to your ear get damaged seriously, they're gone for good.
Given everything that Avery had been through up to that point, blindness really seemed like something that we could deal with.
We stepped back and started counting our blessings. I have very rarely seen patients who have gone through what Avery went through survive.
While Amber and James are grateful that Dr. Pulsifer was able to solve Avery's case and save her life, they still struggle to understand why so many doctors weren't able to put the pieces of the puzzle together sooner.
When you see a doctor at first, they're going to think of the most common things that can occur. Your child is fussy. Well, maybe they have colic. Prior to Avery coming to our center, we had had one other case, and this child was quite sick and unfortunately passed away.
If I could tell other parents who are having, problems with their children they can't explain, I would tell them to just go in and ask their doctor, go in there with a list, keep notes, keep track, be dramatic a little if you have to.
Today, Avery is a rambunctious 6-year-old who continues to amaze her family.
Avery today is exactly as she was from day one. She's a fighter. She has some sight, and really she gets around almost as if it's not even an impairment for her.
Avery amazes me. I couldn't even tell you how many pieces of music she can play.
I can't imagine our life without her. It wouldn't be as fun at all.
My hopes for Avery, I want her to live a healthy, long, productive life, surrounded by the people that love her most.
While Avery Williams will never remember her parents' desperate struggle to save her life, Lynn Sanders will never forget her own decade-long crusade to convince anyone that she was suffering at all. In the spring of 1974, 15-year-old Lynn Sanders had a reputation as one of the best swimmers in the small Wisconsin town she grew up in.
I medaled in the Parkland Conference when you swim against all other high schools, and I took 3rd place in breaststroke, which I was really proud of.
But one afternoon, as she's gliding through the water, Lynn starts to feel something she's never felt before: agonizing pain in her hands.
It was really uncomfortable, achy, like I had the flu or something.
Lynn describes the strange soreness to her mother, who insists on taking her in to see the family doctor. He immediately assumes that the teen has broken a small bone in her hand from the strenuous water workouts. But after taking an X-ray, nothing appears out of the ordinary. The doctor chalks her aches up to growing pains and encourages Lynn to keep her hand wrapped in a support bandage whenever the pain flares up.
Kids are always asking you, why are you wearing that? So you have to explain a story that I just sprained myself. I didn't want to let them know that the doctor just said it was growing pains.
Worse still, as the weeks drag on, the pain in her wrists does not get any better. In fact, they eventually become so tender that she can no longer keep up with the grueling swimming workouts.
Basically, the pain forced me to quit. It was very difficult to quit the swim team, and my parents were disappointed.
Despite the strange looks she keeps getting from classmates, Lynn does her best to just live her life like a normal teenager. She starts going to the local roller rink after school, hoping to make new friends.
It was boys' choice, and I asked her to skate, and we ended up going on another date from that.
During the dating years, I would mention every once in a while that my hand or shoulders were hurting, but I didn't really want to keep mentioning to Dave about all my pain because I didn't want to chase him away.
By the time her senior year rolls around, Lynn is living with chronic pain 24/7. While Dave is essentially unaware of what she's going through, he does notice that Lynn has a propensity to hurt herself.
He would call me klutzy. He would see me do klutzy things.
But nobody realizes just how bad her situation has become. In fact, Lynn's hands have gotten so sore, she's starting to have trouble performing even the simplest of tasks.
I really did feel alone. My mom would tell me to just wrap it up with a bandage and, it'll be better in a couple weeks.
Weeks, then months go by, and the relentless pain doesn't let up, despite the fact that she's wearing the hand braces and taking aspirin 4 times a day. Then, right before graduation, Lynn notices something very unnatural while she's going through her morning stretches.
My elbows looked different. They rotated weird.
I was not aware that Lynn had hypermobility of her joints. It wasn't something that she shared with me or really anyone.
But soon after the young couple gets married in 1978, Lynn can't hide her condition from Dave any longer.
I worked at a daycare. I had a hard time lifting the 2-year-olds. I could feel my shoulders starting to pop out, and I could literally hear it pop.
And it would actually, what they call wing out. It would almost separate from where it's supposed to lie and lie flat.
I would get horrendous pain.
When she can't take it any longer, Lynn quits the daycare and takes on a more low-key desk job. But the daily repetitive office tasks soon begin to take a toll on her as well.
It was getting harder for me to button my buttons on my blouse, turn doorknobs, lift up things with my hand.
Finally, Dave insists that she see an orthopedist to find out once and for all what's wrong with her.
Basically, he comes in the x-ray room and he pulls my hand and separates my wrist during the x-ray, and no other doctor ever did that.
Next, he gives her an extremely thorough exam and even has her perform a series of manual exercises to see how her bones react to movement.
When he was doing the stress test, it was really a horrendous pain. My hand bone basically separated a lot from my wrist bone.
The doctor explains that Lynn's fragile ligaments are so stretched out, they're literally unable to keep her bones in place anymore. This allows the dozens of bones in her hands to rub up against each other, causing friction and excruciating pain.
My ligaments were stretching out, and he needed to shorten those ligaments up. He decided that he could do a surgery.
Desperate to make the pain go away, Lynn agrees to the surgery. And 2 months later, she feels something in her hands that she hasn't felt since she was 15. Nothing.
The wrist felt so much better, and it made me feel 10 times better knowing that this doctor actually I believe, got down to the bottom of the problem.
Over the next 4 years, Lynn undergoes 7 surgeries on various joints. It's the only way she's able to keep the pain at bay.
Again and again, it was one joint and another. One would get patched up and fixed up, and then 6 months later, it'd be a different joint that we had problems with.
Then in 1981, Lynn finds out she's pregnant. At first, she and Dave are overjoyed. But it isn't long before the throbbing pains return with a vengeance. And this time, they're not just in her hands. In fact, her entire body feels as if it's been battered.
The OBGYN said that you are stretching out and that you were going to have a little achiness from being pregnant. All my joint pain never subsided during the whole pregnancy. I didn't know what to expect, basically. I was scared.
Expecting for the first time, Lynn Sanders has been enduring debilitating joint pains that her doctor has repeatedly insisted are a natural part of pregnancy.
All my joint pain never subsided during the whole pregnancy, but I thought that was normal. After I delivered my son, I still had that achiness all over.
But before her body has any time to really recuperate, she finds out she's pregnant yet again. And this time, the agonizing pain seemed to have escalated to a degree that she has never felt before.
I thought because of hormonal problems, that would just continue until, your body gets back into normal shape again.
But 3 months after her second boy's birth, Lynn still isn't feeling any better. The pain is constant. She begins to realize that she can't have any more children in this state and goes on the pill.
And I think it was kind of a cranky mom at the time because of all the pain that I was having.
There was always that question of why is all this happening? What's wrong with my mom?
My knee pain was really, really a sharp pain at the time. I could hardly put weight on it.
When Lynn checks in with her doctor yet again, he assures her that the crippling knee pain is simply a side effect of having paper-thin ligaments. The only thing that will help is another surgery. The next day, Lynn is wheeled into the OR. But as the surgeon inspects her knee, he realizes that the damage is far more extensive than they first thought. After completing the complicated surgery, he instructs the team to put her in a full leg cast to help stabilize her fragile knee.
I was thinking, how am I going to take care of 2 young kids with a cast this size where I can't bend my knee?
After 8 days of recovery in the hospital, the surgeon discharges her with strict orders to take it easy. But Lynn is determined to get back on her feet as quickly as she can. And a few days later, she decides to give crutches a try. But as soon as she takes her first step, she notices that something isn't quite right.
I was having a little bit of pain in my calf area, which was kind of unusual because he fixed my knee.
The pain is just getting worse.
By the next morning, her calf is throbbing so badly that Dave insists on driving her to the emergency room. All it takes is one look at Lynn's leg, and the ER doctor knows that she's in serious trouble.
I was very terrified. I didn't know what to expect.
The medical team runs a battery of tests, and within an hour, they know exactly what's going on. Lynn has 3 blood clots in her leg. At any point, these clots could break loose and travel up through her blood vessels. If they lodge in a sensitive place like the lungs, it could kill her almost instantly.
It was, a very dangerous situation. I realized how quickly it could go bad.
They thought they could be from my birth control pills, so they took me off immediately.
Over the course of the next 8 days, they keep a close eye on Lynn as they pump her full of blood thinners to help reduce the deadly clots.
I just couldn't believe I had to go back for another 8 days.
When the team is confident that the young mother is no longer in danger, They release her with a 90-day supply of the blood-thinning medication. Lynn and Dave are hopeful that the worst of it is behind them. But 2 months later, Lynn is caught off guard when her body starts to change again.
I discovered that I'm pregnant.
You know, she's in a full leg cast, and somehow or another we managed to, do what young couples do, and she ended up getting pregnant.
But the real shock is yet to come. On hearing the news, the doctor recommends that she terminate the pregnancy. He's concerned that the blood thinner she's been taking could have already done serious damage to the unborn fetus.
Also, they said I could miscarry because of it.
She was pretty broken up about it, and I was just trying to be there to listen and try and understand what it was we were going to do next.
Lynn immediately stops taking the blood thinners and begins researching her risks. When she contacts the March of Dimes, they refer her to Lynn Week, a genetic counselor.
We had some uncertainty about the exact timing of her pregnancy and how far along she was. We really have to pinpoint that timing because it makes a big difference as to what the risks are.
The next day, Lynn goes in for an ultrasound, and they're relieved to discover that she's only 5 weeks along. This is good news because the baby was only exposed to the blood thinners for a brief period of time.
As we often say in genetics, nothing's 100%, and so we still had to manage and cope with the fact that there was some uncertainty here.
But Lynn is willing to take the very real risks, especially when she finds out that she's having a girl.
I just broke out in tears because I finally was going to have my girl.
During this third pregnancy, she was in constant pain.
I was in more pain than ever, and I was worried about the baby and if she would have birth defects.
The stress of it all is almost more than either of them can bear. But in the 34th week of her pregnancy, the couple finally hits rock bottom.
All of a sudden, I felt no movement. Here I'm thinking I'm going to have a stillborn, or there's something wrong with my daughter.
Most of the people in Lynn Sanders' life think she's a klutz. They have no idea that the 28-year-old has persevered for more than a decade with chronic and debilitating joint pain.
I had neighbors actually making fun of me, saying, well, what are you going to have a cast on this time?
Then, during the 8th month of her third pregnancy, the baby stops moving, and the young mother knows she needs help.
I immediately went to my OB/GYN. He told me that I was in labor, basically, and that I was going to have the baby 6 weeks early.
It's a tense 6 hours of labor, but on March 18th, 1986, Jessica Sanders is born. And even though she's premature, doctors assure Dave and Lynn that she's perfectly healthy. But Lynn is still very worried that the blood thinners could have affected her baby girl in ways that aren't yet apparent. So she checks back in with Lynn Week, her genetic counselor.
I asked her lots of questions about Jessica's medical history, and every question that I asked had a very normal newborn baby answer.
Just to be safe, Lynn continues to take her daughter in to see Lynn every 6 months. And each time, she assures the nervous mother that all is well. At Jessica's 3-year checkup, it becomes clear that the genetic counselor is far more worried about Lynn than her daughter.
Luann asked me, every time I see you, you're in a different cast.
So started asking her a lot more questions about her health history. I felt it was important that I make her aware of a condition that might explain her problems.
Lynn can't believe what Lynn is suggesting. She spent nearly 15 years hearing that she's just different, but secretly, she's always suspected there was more going on.
I was totally desperate for some kind of answer to all the aches and pain that I had since I was 15 years old.
Luann advises Lynn to get in touch with a genetic specialist immediately. She tracks down Dr. Pamela Trepane and hands over her extensive medical file. Dr. Trepane begins conducting her own investigation by having Lynn perform very specific tests on her joints.
There is a scale that we use to be able to assess joint instability and joint hypermobility.
In other words, how mobile are her joints? Looking at her skin, how stretchy it is.
Based on that type of a physical exam, in addition to her medical history, makes that diagnosis. Lynn has classic features of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a disorder in which a genetic mutation disrupts the patient's production of collagen, a type of protein that acts as a glue and holds our skin, muscle, and ligaments together. Without the adequate collagen, Lynn's body quite literally began falling apart.
Lynn's joint pain is a direct result of the poor collagen and the poor elasticity. Many children, their parents will describe them as being clumsy, when in fact they're trying very hard to keep their whole body in appropriate alignment.
You think back and think, well, maybe she wasn't the klutz that we thought she was. It was related to this condition that she had no control over.
Dr. Trepane speculates that Lynn's pain progressed slowly from her hands and wrists to other body parts because the joints that are used most often feel the wear and tear first.
When Lynn was pregnant, she felt even more fatigued. We're already talking about joints that are unstable, and now you're adding the load of the pregnancy on top of that and a shifting center of gravity. All of those things then will combine to create increased joint pain. Historically, people who had classic Ehlers-Danlos syndrome had incredibly stretchy skin. Within circus environments, you see the people that can stretch their skin, taking their earlobes and pulling them down.
One of the big puzzles, of course, for Lynn was why it took so long for people to make this diagnosis.
She did not have overly stretchy skin. Unfortunately, what most physicians have learned is that's EDS.
While it's reassuring to finally know what she's been living with all these years, Lynn is not prepared for what the doctor has to say next.
There is no cure for EDS. We cannot go in and fix the gene that is making the collagen incorrectly. We can, however, provide good pain control and good physical therapy.
Lynn begins a rigorous course to strengthen and steady her joints and takes prescription medications to help manage her pain. Unfortunately, she will continue to require surgeries to tighten up her ligaments as they wear out.
I'm trying to go and do the best I can each and every day. Every day is a new day.
To date, Lynn has had more than 40 surgeries. She also wears custom-made silver ring splints to help stabilize the joints in her fingers.
I wear these just to prevent tearing in my ligaments in my fingers, and also it really does help with pain.
Lynn is still coming to terms with the fact that her disease will never go away. But she finds her inspiration to face each day through her husband's unwavering support.
It takes a special person to marry somebody and still stand by my side. 33 years since we met.
It's for better or worse in sickness and health, and that's pretty much what I've stood by.
Today, Dave and Lynn remain hopeful for a cure. In the meantime, she's doing all that she can to help patients like herself. In 2006, she started the Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome Network Cares.
You have to be your own advocate. I hope someday every doctor knows something about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.